Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. This is Kimberly Sheridan from Losing It with Kimberly. Glad to hear you here again today. I can't hear you. You can hear me. I wish it was a two-way, but I think that would be hard to accomplish with hundreds of people around the world in different time zones. Not sure how we do that. But for today, it is morning for me. It's about almost 8 o'clock. I've been up for an hour and a half, but I was doing things around my house, and this time it didn't feel like I was not going to get down here and start walking on the treadmill. The first thing was coffee. Didn't have any coffee, so had to make that, then throw some ice in there and give it a little bit of time to chill down so I could make it into my iced coffee. Because ever since I hit perimenopause, I essentially need to drink iced coffee from, let's say, October to, that can't be right. March to October? Something like that. I don't know. It's something more than just summer. It's wider than summer because I just can't handle putting in anything hot into my system that's already hot. Oftentimes, before I even get out of bed. Like last night, night sweats. I know many of you are familiar with those, and surprise, surprise, of course, it came right along the next day after a migraine, right? So hormones. Anyway, yesterday, my migraine did go away and did come back around 4 p.m. and didn't come back hard enough to actually take anything for it. And I don't know, hung around a handful of hours and then went back on its merry way. And traditionally I wouldn't have another one until next month around this time. But, with hormones being what they are in perimenopause or menopause, sometimes I still get them in between times, but they're not as harsh. It's a pretty big deal still. It's a pretty painful deal still. And I still need to take medicine, and home medicine doesn't do enough. And I really should go get some Imitrex from a doctor, a prescription, or whatever else they have out there now. In any case, it's still not as bad as it used to be. So, just like everybody else, I deal with what's given to me and move on with life. And I see those commercials now that we can put on medicine commercials on television with it, which I think is terrible. I guess it's probably informative to some people, so perhaps not terrible, but nonetheless, when I see the commercials for migraines where the medicine's like, if you get migraines more than 12 times a month, this might work for you, or whatever number they have. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, I guess I'm grateful I only get it, 2 days a month. So we all have something we got to deal with at some point. So that's one of mine. And I'm done. Woke up this morning feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great for 51. I was noting how I woke up and I thought, oh, I feel pretty good. And then I thought, yeah, but I still need to lay here for 30 or 45 minutes before I actually feel like getting out of the bed. And that never was the case for me when I was younger. I definitely, I'm a morning person. And I would just wake up and want to get right up immediately, I remember saying I jump out of bed because I did. I don't know. I liked living life, and I still like living life, but my body was ready to move immediately. I think that's the biggest thing. Whereas now I just lay there going, yeah, I'm not quite ready to move yet. So, but I'm grateful that I can move once my mind convinces my body to do it. And got up, feel good. Came down to do the treadmill, albeit a little later than normal. 8 o'clock, still not bad, right? Pretty good start. It was an arms day, and so, I've been easing up to this, thinking, I want to add in some more exercises. And I thought, well, I really, in talking yesterday about buying the 25-pound dumbbells, and again, I can't do any exercises with those yet. But I ordered them, and they're on back order, so they're not going to come immediately anyway. And so in talking about that, though, and giving the example of chest presses, which are when you have a weight bench, you're laying on your back, you're holding, in my case, dumbbells, not a barbell, but you're holding the dumbbells at your chest level with your palms facing the ceiling, and you just push your arms from the bent position up toward the ceiling. At the same time, push both of them up toward the ceiling into a straight arm position, always with a small bend in your elbows. Never totally lock your arms into a straight position, but almost straight. And you push those weights up from your chest toward the ceiling, and you bring them back down to your chest, and that is 1 rep of a chest press. So yesterday when I was talking about the 25-pound weights and thinking, okay, what exercise would I be able to do first with 25-pounders? And chest press would be it, because that's the one that I'm able to do the most weight on. If you look at tricep exercises or bicep curls or even shoulder presses, chest press I can do more on. Most people can. I would probably think all people can. And so that got me thinking about chest presses. And because I've exercised my whole life, there are exercises I like. Chest press makes me feel strong and powerful. No matter what amount I'm able to lift at any particular time in my quote-unquote fitness journey, I like chest presses. And so I thought, well, I'll add that in today. And so then I was like, well, but okay, I've got my bicep curl, my shoulder press, and I'm doing that at a weight, 15-pound dumbbells. So that's a weight that's challenging for me. Possible to do 1 set of 12? Absolutely. Still challenging. And so I thought, well, maybe I don't want to do my chest presses back to back with that then, especially since you end up using some of the same muscle groups. So I got back to what I would traditionally do in a gym, which is called a superset, which is because you've just worked certain muscle groups, you might need to rest those muscle groups for a few minutes before you do your next exercise. Well, to compact your workout in terms of time, instead of having these rest periods in between, many people like me, instead of having, today I do all arms, tomorrow I do all legs, next day I do all arms, and just alternating, I like to do what's called supersets, which is you will do, one exercise that works your arms, then one exercise that works your legs, then back to the arms, then back to the legs. That way you don't need rest periods in between, because your arms, you've just worked them, they're getting rest while you're doing a leg exercise. And then you've just worked your legs, you move back to an arm exercise, your legs are getting their rest while you're doing your arm exercise. This doesn't have to flip back and forth with arms and legs. You can certainly do different parts of your body, your upper body, as long as the exercises are working different muscle groups. It could all be lower body or all upper body. But the idea, it's a lot simpler to pair exercises together if you alternate arms, legs. Because then you don't have to know as much about the muscle groups that are being used for each exercise. So I started thinking about supersets. So then I thought, well, maybe it's time to go back to doing supersets, and I'll only do weight exercises every other day, so which is what I used to do. So on the odd days, I would just do cardio. I'm not going to do any of the weights. And then on the weight days, I would do upper body and lower body. And ultimately, I'll add in abs and back. I was going to say lower back, I guess. Lower back, right. The exercises I would do for my back do focus on the lower back for the most part. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the exercises that work the upper part of my back, I sort of think of arm exercises because some of them incorporate both arm muscles and upper back muscles. In any case, the whole point is today I shook things up, and I'm grateful, to be able to do that on the fly because of my baseline knowledge and experience, not only of study, but working with clients, and also obviously, my whole fitness journey up until I was 40. And so I'm grateful, to be able to do that on the fly, because not everybody can do that, and it makes it a lot easier. I think I compare it to somebody who cooks. enough and has the talent and the knowledge and the experience that they can just go into their kitchen and look in the refrigerator and the freezer and the cupboard, create a little plan in their head in a couple of minutes, and then whip together a delicious meal, because they know what to do with what's there. And I can't do that in the kitchen. I can follow a recipe. Yeah, I'm great at following recipes, but that's reliant on the recipe being good and me just being somebody who knows how to follow directions. And I've cooked my whole life I've cooked since I got my first apartment in third year of college. So I've cooked since then, but I'm not an amazing cook. I'm a person who can follow a recipe, but because I've cooked so many years, I know all the lingo, except I think if you put me in a room with a bunch of chefs, they would probably, know some lingo I don't know. But even if you're exposed to new lingo in an area that you've had a lot of years of experience in, you can sort of, through context, read about it, watch a little something, and then through context of what you already do know, pick it up pretty quickly, And I can't do that in many areas of life, probably most areas of life. We've all got our thing, but I can do that with fitness, where I can look at a new piece of fitness equipment that's introduced, because they're always coming out with new things, and I can look at something and watch somebody use it on their sales video or whatever infomercial. If I haven't seen an infomercial in a long time because I don't watch traditional TV, but but if and I say that I watch streaming, so I'm not saying I don't watch TV. But in any case, I can look at a piece of equipment being used and tell whether that's BS or whether it's actually going to work. Muscle groups that they're claiming it's going to work, and I can tell whether the person using it could have attained the physique they're showing us in this infomercial, using that piece of equipment, or if that's total, nonsense, that they are off doing some other sort of workout, to attain their physique. And then they're just hawking this thing, that they're claiming created those abs or those legs or that butt or whatever. So we've all got our area that we've studied in for a number of years, or that we've experienced ourselves hands-on for a number of years. And we have some baseline knowledge, so I am grateful that I can do that with exercise. So I think what you'll hear over these next few weeks is me sort of piecing together what I want to do. And so I think what you'll hear over these next few weeks is me sort of piecing together what I want to do. And if I was ready to do a full workout, I would sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and write one out and start doing it tomorrow. Actually, I wouldn't do it tomorrow because I just worked my upper and lower body today. I would do it the next day, but I'm not ready to do it. I'm not ready to commit the time to it, and I'm not as resistant towards it as I am resistant towards changing my food at this point. But I'm just not ready to make it a priority, I guess, in terms of how I spend my time quite yet. I've got a lot of other things competing for my time, and as you know, I get to talk with you while I'm exercising. You can hear me huffing and puffing, so I sort of get to double dip on that time, and there's no real double dipping that can take place with weight workouts. If I had something I needed to listen to that didn't require any visuals and didn't require any note taking, that would probably be the only thing that I could double dip on while doing a weight exercise routine. And I don't have anything like that. Everything I need to learn is video and or requires note taking. So, or in a book, like the personal trainer manual that I'm going to study. That's a physical book. You know those physical books. They have words. They're printed on this thing called paper. You flip the pages. I love books, so I'm happy to curl up with that book and study it when I set aside the time to do that. But in any case, time. That's my biggest hang up. And that's not everybody's biggest hang up for sure. For some people, it's knowledge. And it's not that we have lack of information. There's so much information, but it's too much. There's too much information out there. Much of it is conflicting. If you went out and you said, how can I tone my flabby arms? You're going to get, 15 different answers to that question, and then sort of be still stuck in which one of these should I be doing? Which one is going to be most effective? And so it's not information per se, but knowledge is the piece that lets you sort of look at all that information and hone it down to the essence of what you need to get the result that you want to get. And so I think some people are still struggling with, a lot of people are still struggling with that knowledge piece. And if you have plenty of time's not your thing, maybe it's knowledge, maybe it's motivation, maybe you don't have a reason that you've discovered yet that is big enough to overcome your resistance. We all have different motivators for sure. There's not just one grand motivator that makes people take better care of their health or exercise or eat right or eat health in a healthy way. When I think back to me going to the gym, truly my motivators came from a negative place. I wasn't aware of that at the time, and I got a positive result out of it, but there's plenty of people that get positive results out of negative motivators. One of the examples I use quite frequently is, people who are successful in business and or they don't have their own business. Maybe they work for an entity, but they make a lot of money. Many times, driven people have a negative motivator under there where they're trying to gain the approval of a parent or of society, or, oftentimes men want to win a partner and they have a belief that they do that through, making a lot of money or having a nice car, a nice home, or offering the person, opportunity to go on fabulous vacations, or maybe they're looking for approval from a parent where money and success was the sign of being lovable. As I mentioned before, in my household, not being overweight. It wasn't even about beauty per se. It was just like overweight bad. And I don't even remember being told that, outwardly. That was just somehow the messages that get through to, especially to your child mind, the messages that get through before you have the ability to actually rationally process them. You end up with these beliefs. And so for me, the motivator I don't really remember the motivator for first going to the gym when I went to college, to an on-campus gym. I don't even remember what the motivator was. However, once I started going, the motivator to continue having fitness as part of my life was the mind piece. And even before I got into running, which I said a different day on one of these recordings, I didn't even get into running until I was 38. So all that other time I was doing weights and cardio of various sorts, but it wasn't running. So the motivator for going to the gym then, I never remember getting a runner's high like I get when I run. However, I definitely remember thinking, I get so much from my mind out of this. More so even for me at that point, more so than my body. Like my body was getting the result, but the thing that my brain was registering as good, was what I mentally got out of exercise, And so I had that going. And the reason I think that, everybody gets some motivation out of, everybody gets some chemical something from a certain level of exercise, but I've always had I don't want to call it a low level of depression because that's not really a good, an accurate label. Let's just say I've always had some sort of chemical imbalance that has caused me to experience depression on an unknown cycle and in various parts of my life. And if we were to draw it on a graph, it would be a completely separate line from the events of my life. If we were to draw the events of my life, the birth of a baby, meeting my partner, getting married, getting divorced, starting a business, losing a business, like you can draw any event as a line on this graph, and still depression was an independent line that might be influenced by some of those, but wasn't caused by any of those and wasn't alleviated by any of those. So I could have my most blissful events and still be depressed, or I could have a really difficult period of my life where I was facing something like, financial ruin during the recession, divorce, my mother's illnesses, etc., and not have actual thoughts of depression. Struggle, suffering perhaps, but quite different than the thoughts that come from clinical depression. So I think that I was getting some chemicals from working out at the gym that I, didn't produce on my own. So there's, a negative motivator, a much better way, if I had been aware, a much better way, in my opinion, would have been to seek medical help. As I look back on my life, it would have changed my life immensely had I sought medical help. Secondly, I believe that I was medicating and continue to find, food to be the thing I medicate with when I medicate. I was medicating with junk food. So, as I've mentioned, eating healthy meals because that's how I was raised, and that's what my taste buds enjoy. I don't know whether we shape our taste buds, in our childhood, but in any case, I enjoy eating at home for the most part. I enjoy healthy meals for the most part, and I have this junk food habit because I'm medicating, my depression, and so working out burned enough calories that it sort of erased or leveled out those junk food calories I was eating every day, and so, or almost every day, so it served me in that way too, but that also is a negative thing, right? Instead of dealing with, dealing with the thing that's causing you emotional pain, stuffing junk food down there to treat it is not a good treatment, and then the other thing that's sort of balancing out this trifecta, right, is that belief that was instilled in me that being overweight would make me unappealing, to men specifically, and so, all of those really are negatives, but yet they were all driving me continuing to be a person that went to the gym and got these positive health results from it, and I wasn't aware at all. I was aware of parts of this, but I really didn't see the big picture. I didn't go to the gym each day thinking this is what I was going for. I just knew that it was good for my mental state, and I felt good when I would leave. And I knew that I was burning calories that I was able to eat in junk food, but I never really glued it all together to have it feel bad for me to actually treat the core causes that were making me stick with it. To me, it felt good. Going to the gym feels good. I do it. I get this positive result. All is good, right? But all that melts down once your little system that you've created, whether consciously or subconsciously, all that sort of crumbles once your system crumbles. And for me, that happened, when and for me, that happened when my time got crunched, which wasn't just my mother's health situations. It started with getting divorced, right before the 2008 recession. I didn't time that. We had been working on our marriage pretty much the whole time. At the very least, from second year in, we were starting into therapy, and had been working before that also, trying to figure out what was going wrong here. But ultimately into therapy 2 years in, and then ongoing from there, and never really got to a resolution. So it had been a long time coming, for sure. I know people listening who have been divorced. It's not something you wake up and you think, today's the day. Never thought about it before. I'm going to do it today. It's something you work up to, and certainly not the choice I would have wanted. But the timing worked out that it happened in 2007, and then 2008 hit, and the recession hit, and we had a commercial real estate business at the time together, and he had gone and gotten a new job, so he was doing fine financially, but I was stuck with this business and was tied to it, and people just stopped paying their rent altogether. So I had some income, and then less income, and then less income, and then pretty much no income for a period of time. And so, that I was laying off people, working more, didn't have time to work out. Then the same year, 2008, essentially, it was the year I got divorced, the year our business was decimated, the beginning of the decimation. It continued to drag on and drag me down with it for the next 3 years, I think. And my mom was diagnosed with that pretty rare lung bacteria, which is called NTM. And I had to take charge on researching that. And my kids had just turned 4 and 6. So it was not a good time, and that's truly when this whole thing started crumbling for me. 2008, I was 40 years old. That's the beginning of the crumble. And then it just continued on from there with new, those things evolving, and some of them continuing to this day, like my mom's lung bacteria. But then my father passed away, and he didn't have a will, and he and my mom had gotten divorced, prior. They had been together for decades, and then ultimately got divorced. And so he had his own house that was something else to deal with. He had no will. He and my mom actually had helped each other in their later years, and so he had been started to take my mom to her specialist, infectious disease person, when I was working in the business and couldn't leave anymore. And he passed away. So then my mom's, issues were something now that I had to work on and deal with again. I resisted saying deal with because it sounds negative, but the truth is, if another responsibility is foisted upon you when you have no other space, in your life, it is something you have to deal with. And then along the way, she got Alzheimer's, etc. So it's just, it's been a downhill slide for coming up on 12 years. And I'm just now getting my arms around, I've been working diligently to climb back up the mountain, but I'm just now getting to the point where I see that I might be able to get back to the top of the mountain, and that's what this journey is about for me and for all of you. It's not every single person listening right now has a story that has led to their struggles with weight, their resistance to changing what they eat, their resistance to exercise, the people in their life that either contribute to enabling them to stay in the condition they are, or sabotage their efforts to get better, or the people in their life that support them and encourage them. Their lack of knowledge around this area, because they can go into a kitchen and whip up a meal, or they can, create a quilt just by using 5 minutes to, noodle around in their brain and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And they just start doing it. We all have different skill sets, different knowledge, different interests, different talents even. And so for people who have really never known much about this area, it's a big learning curve, you find that about anything that you get into. I don't know why this one popped into mind because I'm not into this, but I've always been so interested in the fact that every single thing that is a hobby or an interest to someone, if you really get into it, every single one of them can go so deep and so detailed for something that you would think is just simple and relatively surface, right? And so I was just thinking of fly fishing, and people who tie fly fishing, I guess they're still called lures if it's fly fishing. I don't even know. I don't know anything about fishing. But I think that every single thing in life, you can go very deep in terms of knowledge and expertise. And for some people who that hasn't been food, and it hasn't been nutrition, and it hasn't been exercise, then, information gathering and then getting enough understanding to use the information to put it into knowledge, be able to figure out this is BS, this makes sense, this can go with that, because there are a lot of different ways to get to an end result, and so I think for people who are at the beginning of that stage, it's very difficult, and I hope that listening to this gives you some, basis and some tips and knowledge that is helping you to build that. And then for other people who are listening, who they have the information, they have the knowledge, they might not have grown up with it like I did, but they have it, and they're struggling with motivation. I hope that some of the things that I talk about help you, and just being here with me, I hope that helps you to find some motivation to start making lifestyle changes, even if they're minute, it doesn't matter if they're small. We're just looking for consistent. And if you, like me, 24 ounces of water. I was thinking yesterday, that's one of my commitments, drink 24 ounces of water a day. And I could increase that, conceivably. Everyone would argue that you need to consume more than that each day. But I'm not ready to do it. And I'm not going to do it, I speculated about whether I should take it up to 36 one day. But honestly, I'm struggling to do the 24. I'm not suffering with it. When I'm drinking the water, I'm not thinking, oh, this is disgusting. Why do I have to do this? I have no problem once I start drinking it. It's just, I'm not going to guzzle 24 ounces of water. And so that means I have to sort of remember it throughout the day. And it's just not part of my lifestyle yet. It's on my chart, which is my daily ritual chart, which is the way I actually get it done, because each time I check in with my chart throughout the day, I'm like, oh yeah, gotta drink some water. So I'll slurp some water. What's really working for me actually is not to view it as something I'm drinking right now instead of Diet Coke. So what I'll do is I'll finish my iced coffee, which many of you know is decaf, so I'm not getting any caffeine off of that. So I'll finish my iced coffee in the morning, and then I'll shift over typically to Diet Coke. So I'm going ahead and doing that shift without water first, and then I will at some point add in some water. And I'm not necessarily getting rid of my Diet Coke, like it can be there too. So some of my sips are coming from that, and some are coming from the water. And that seems to be working, So in my mind, I guess I'm not thinking, oh, it's water time, wish this had more flavor. But at the same time, so I'm making it work, but at the same time, I'm not really ready to increase it because I'm already having to make an effort. I guess that's it. I'm having to make an effort to fit it in to my routine. And so if I add in more ounces, I'm going to have to make even more effort. And I think that's it. I'm not ready to give that particular thing more mental attention. And so I want to use my mental, we only have so much. We talked one day about how many hours in a day. We all have 24 hours in a day. We all have 168 hours in a week. But that's just time. There's mental attention in there. And one of the reasons why I wanted to focus this program on women is because most women have more things that are pulling at their mental attention than most men. I'm not trying to make a generalization, but it's sort of one of those that might be true if you did a study. And many people do studies about, what home responsibilities women have versus men, what child care responsibilities women have versus men, what expectations, society has for what a mother or a wife does in the household or out in the world versus men. There are a few, I can't remember, some Scandinavian country, Norway or Sweden or somewhere around there, where there's much more equality when it comes to that. But at least in the United States and in many other countries, women's attention is split amongst so many things that you really do. You're not just managing and balancing your time, you're managing and allocating your mental attention, and so for me, putting more attention towards water is not where I can afford to put it right now. And it sounds sort of dumb if you are not currently or have never perhaps been strained for time. And I wasn't, before this last 12 years. I had all sorts of other stuff I was dealing with, but I wasn't this strained for time. So I never really looked at it from this perspective, but that's where I'm at now. And that's what I'm inviting everybody listening to do is just look at where you are at now, not where I'm at, not where somebody else is at, not where you used to be at, but where you're at now, and make those commitments that you can keep up, consistently, even if they're small. Even if you said, I'm going to drink 6 ounces of water every day. Even if you said, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes every day, whether on a treadmill or outside or wherever. Even if you said, I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks a day, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. It doesn't matter. It's more than you used to do, more than you were doing yesterday, and you're going to make progress. If you do more than you have been doing in the recent weeks or months, you will make progress. You might not see that progress immediately. It might not be measurable per se in terms of results, but over time, all of these things are like what I like to call the pebble in the bucket. If you put a pebble in a bucket, it's going to look like nothing. Next day, you put another pebble in the bucket. Next time you repeat that activity that you've committed to, it's going to look like nothing. 30 days later, 30 pebbles in that bucket still doesn't really look like much, right? But over time, over the next 60, 90, 120 days, those pebbles do start collecting, and it does start looking like something, and it actually is. It's measurable progress, right? But some of the things that we're doing are small, right? So it takes a long time for it to even be measurable. But it's making a change in your body. It's making a change in your mind. And you too can do what I'm doing, which is just be loose with it. Make your commitments. Write them on your daily ritual chart. Choose ones you can stick with consistently. If you do like I do, write your smiley faces in the box for each day when you complete them. Or if you don't complete that day, whatever mark you want to do. Some people might do an X. Standing, if my commitment is 8 hours a day and I only stand for 6.5, I instead choose a different color pen and I write 6.5 in the box instead of my red smiley face. Whatever you do, but choose those things that you can stick to consistently and just be loose with yourself. Increase them along the way when you're ready to. It doesn't have to be on a schedule. Every Monday, I'm going to challenge myself to do more. It can be. If that works for you, it certainly can be. There's no right or wrong here. It's just continual improvement. And consistency is the way that we make that happen. And reasonable goals. So that's what I want for you. That's what I'm doing for myself every day. I hope that I will be with you again tomorrow. I'll be here. I guess I should rephrase that. I'll be here. I hope you'll be here. I hope you have a great day, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.